Madam Chair, you're live.
Good morning, everyone. Excited to see so many bright and shiny faces. It's just like the first day of school. Do you like the new room? Do you like this better than the other one? Let's have a show of hands. No, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's half and half. Actually, the acoustics are probably better in here, and it really helps our young legislators who have young children to get here and be able to come in the side door here instead of having to go all through the Capitol. So anyway, we have 3 bills today. We started to work on Senate File 59, spent quite a bit of time on that last week. And we are just going to work the bill today. We took quite a bit of testimony, so we're just going to go ahead and ask for the committee, once I take roll, to go ahead and make a motion on the bill. And then as we go through, there may be some amendments and that sort of thing. But our focus today, really more than anything else, is the K-12 public school finance bill, which we are statutorily required to get this out. So with that, we'll go ahead and take roll first. And by the way, this is our new person. I don't know where Ashley went. She disappeared into thin air. So we have Corey, and we welcome you and ask you to take roll for us.
This is a roll call vote for Senate Education, February 16th. Senator Brennan,
Here.
Senator Olson,
Here.
Senator Rothfuss,
Here.
Senator Scott,
Here.
Chairman Schuler.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Corey, and welcome. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and ask for a motion from the committee on Senate File 59, the K-12 Language and Literacy Program. And what is your pleasure on that bill? Okay, it's been moved by Senator Olson.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Brennan. Do you have any potential amendments on Senate File 59? We worked this bill a lot the other day. We worked it a lot during the interim, took a lot of testimony. And again, I'll just thank Senator Rothfuss ahead of time because we created a subcommittee because this was such an important aspect that we felt like it was important to get all our stakeholders on board with it. And so do you have anything you want to say about that, Senator Rothfuss?
Madam Chairman? Yeah, Madam Chairman, I think we're in good shape as far as amendments. The only thing that we might want to do, there's been some discussion about concerns related to federal funds and state fund availability. So I would suggest that we do get an amendment drafted, bring that on committee of the whole to address that potential concern. But at this point, I think the bill's in great shape to move forward. And I appreciate all of the hard work by all of the stakeholders, WDE, and everyone else that was involved.
Yeah. And I do have that amendment ready, but in the lieu of time today, I'm going to go ahead and hold off on that amendment until committee of the whole. So, but thank you. All right. With that, if there are no amendments, let's go ahead and, oh, sorry, Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to express some reservations about this bill. And a good part of it is some of the key definitions, including what grade level reading proficiency is, are left up to the state superintendent without any sideboards on that. And we've had quite a bit of turnover in that superintendent's office. So I am concerned that on some of those key definitions, we have no idea how they're going to come out. I also am a little concerned it's full enough of educational jargon and complicated enough that I think it might be used as a weapon against parents that were trying to get involved by certain of the school districts that seem to be hostile to that. I think it's going to be difficult for a non-educator to understand it.
Thank you for those comments. Anything else, committee? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and take roll call on Senate File 59, K-12 Language and Literacy Program.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 59. Senator Brennan,
Aye.
Senator Olson,
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss,
Aye.
Senator Scott,
No.
Chairwoman Schuler.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that is 4 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you very much. That bill has at least passed the committee. And Senator Office, I would love it if you would take this since you were in charge of the subcommittee. So we'll put you on the hot seat when we get upstairs. All right. With that, we will move on to probably, besides the budget, the most important bill that we will take a look at this year is the K-12 School Finance Bill. This was sponsored by the Select Committee on School Finance Recalibration, and we have the two co-chairs here today to present the bill. And so Co-Chair Salazar, Co-Chair Heiner, we're glad to have you here today. And we'll turn the time over to you to give us the high level or whatever level you'd like on this bill. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate you and your committee doing the work on this. Madam Chair, other than I think Senator Scott and Senator Olson, three of you have already sat on recalibration, and I know the other two have read the bill. This is pretty, I think everyone pretty much knows what's in the bill. I know you have a lot of public testimony. So with your indulgence, Madam Chair, I'd like to just do a broad brush 5-minute and then allow time for public testimony and then whatever actions you may do if that is
That
good
would
with
be
you.
just wonderful. Thank you,
Great.
Senator.
So, and then my co-chair, Representative Heiner's here. Do you have any comments, Representative? So what I'd like to do then, Madam Chair, is just briefly go over some of the highlights of Senate File 81. As all of you know, Senate File 81 is the product brought forth by the Select Committee on School Finance Recalibration that forwards recommendations to recalibrate the Education Resource Block Grant K through 12 funding model. Recalibration is a requirement of the Wyoming State Statute 21-13309 and has been directed by the Wyoming Supreme Court to take place not less than every 5 years. As the bill stands right now, Senate File 81 results in an estimated increase in funding for Wyoming school districts of $157.1 million over the next 2 years and $54.8 million in fiscal year 27, $102.3 million in 2028. Increases teacher instructional resource funding by $65 million in 27 and adds 71 teacher positions compared to the current K through 12 funding model. The average model teacher salaries are increased by 12% compared to current average model teacher salaries and are 4% higher than current school year actual average teaching salaries of $67,859. It protects teachers and its structural resources funding from being used for other purposes. What else? As far as proficiency goes, it pays school districts entitlement and special education payments 1 month sooner, reimburses school bus purchases out of district special education costs during the school year in which expenditure is made, removes funding cliffs in financing formulas, increases future cash reserves, and streamlines calculation going forward. One of the important aspects of the recalibration bill, Madam Chair, is the Select Committee will continue to study a number of issues, mental health, but the bill also implements the elementary school counselors and nurse recommendations beginning in fiscal year 28 and continues a $5 million mental health grant. And obviously, we will continue to further study safety and security and school nutrition programs over the summer of 2026. And we did this, as you know, Madam Chair, to give us more time to do it right. The court would want us to do it right. And we're building a record here, Madam Chair, as you well know, to show the court that the state legislature is working in good faith to fulfill the orders of the court and at the same time to give the best education that we can for our children in K through 12. And with that, Madam Chair, I really don't have anything further to comment on. I'll hand it over to my co-chair.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott Heiner, Representative Scott Heiner from House District 18. I just wanted to add that I am grateful for the Senate for taking this up. It is our constitutional duty as legislators to recalibrate and to come up with a updated funding for our schools. The House failed to do that twice. We failed to uphold our oath of office, to uphold the Constitution. They failed to even bring this to the floor to debate. This came out of the committee as a proposal from 12 members of the legislature, 12 only. Once it comes to the Senate, now the Senate will have an opportunity to make changes, do what they feel is right, and make it a Senate bill that they support. But to refuse to even bring it to the floor for debate, to be able to adjust it, in my mind, is a derelict of duty. They abdicated their responsibility as a legislator to others. And I am so glad, so grateful for the Senate for taking this up so that we can come up with something that constitutionally we are required to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have some questions for either one of the co-chairs? Yes, Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, and first, let me start off by extending my compliments to the recalibration committee, and particularly to the co-chairman of the recalibration committee for a job well done. We've been needing to get this done for years. We got disrupted 5 years ago by the feds dropping a major COVID stimulus thing that nobody understood on top of us while we were debating the thing. And that was a problem. But we've been way too long to get this done, and getting a product that could be unanimously approved by your committee. I really want to compliment those in charge for this. I've been around long enough to know good legislative work when I see it, and I see it here. So with that, one quick comment and one quick question. The quick comment was, I was particularly concerned about one-room country schools. I've got 3 of them, very isolated in my district. And I talked to LSO staff and they led me through how they were funded, and that seems to be just fine, Madam Chairman. I thought it would be, but I wanted to make sure and just wanted to let everybody know. On the issue of state employee going into the state employees group, I am quite unclear as to, is this going to be something that's going to cost us a significant amount of money in the short term? Or were there some savings, or was it clear what the additional cost of going into the state employees program was?
So.
Go ahead, Co-Chair.
Madam Chair. Senator Scott, I had the same concern with the small schools. We put in the small school adjustment, and I think we have a product now that helps those small schools. I've heard from one of my small schools, and they feel comfortable with it. With regard to the actual cost on the insurance, I would defer to Mr. Wilmarth with regard to what the most current update is with regard to the insurance.
Mr. Wilmarth?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Scott, Matthew Wilmarth, LSO Senior School Finance Analyst. There has not been a study that has done the actuarial analysis on having all school districts participate in the state health insurance plan. So within the fiscal note, we don't forecast any particularly savings or increased costs related to that. I know the Department of Administration information is here, and they have expressed a desire to study that piece to see if there is a cost to the state. So you might hear some feedback from them on that. But the committee did not forward a study for that purpose. It is a delayed effective date to July 1st of 2027. If the committee desires to push that back further for a study, certainly a policy call, but the committee did not identify any particularly large savings or costs related to that during the interim work.
Okay, thank you. Senator Olson? Yes. You have a
Yes,
question?
thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Vice President, I want to go a little further into a discussion about insurance. Because it's not quite clear to me what the genesis of it is in the committee. It's clearly not cost savings because we don't have those numbers. There was no study done. But what I can tell you is this has been a really hot button issue. I'm sure you know that. And I've heard from superintendents, principals, teachers nonstop for the last couple of days who are very concerned with this insurance policy piece of the legislation. I understand it's delayed by a year. I understand that. But what I want to try to understand better from you, Mr. Chairman, is what was the discussion on the committee that led to this being part of the bill as opposed to just a study?
Madam Chair, Senator Olson, so I think there was general discussion with regard to how that money was used. Was it used specifically for health insurance, or if it, in some districts, if it wasn't used for health insurance, was it used for purposes other than that? And I think the committee had a discussion as to whether or not it was the state legislature's intent to have that that money go to something other than health insurance. But maybe Mr. Co-Chair can express his thoughts on that too.
Co-chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Olson, one of the other discussions, we heard a lot from part-time workers that work for the school districts. They worked so that they could possibly get medical insurance. And in order to get medical insurance for many of our school districts, they have to work 30 hours or more. With the state insurance, that is lowered down to 20 hours. So many of the bus drivers, part-time janitorial, custodial people would be able to have major medical at that point, that they strongly desired that, to have some medical insurance. The other thing was the increasing premiums year over year. The state insurance has not seen, until this year right now, they hadn't seen any premium adjustments or increases since 2018. So it's pretty stable. Whereas for schools, they're seeing these almost every year in some of the districts. So those are some of the things that we heard from the citizens. They wanted more stable premiums and being able to have part-time people on insurance that need insurance. And that, you know, we have ranchers and farmers that drive school buses. They need the insurance, and that's why they drive school buses. But 30 hours is a lot of time driving a bus, whereas with the state insurance, they'd be able to do it with 20 hours.
Other questions? Go ahead, Senator Scott.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, following up on that, why, if there's concern about some of the insurance money being used for other things, why not put it, the health insurance on a reimbursable basis? That would deal with that, and maybe you could put some incentive in it and authorize them going to the 20 hours if they needed to attract people for those part-time things. And I could see how that could be a powerful attractant. But maybe I'm been here too long, but I can remember when the state employees insurance plan came in, and we were under considerable pressure from the state employees, and especially the districts where there a lot of them, to make that a very rich plan. So, and the legislature did in fact respond to that, Madam Chairman. And I'm a little fearful of the consequences of some of that over time.
Want to comment on that, Co-Chair?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Scott, that is something that we've been in discussion since the last committee extensively. We had a lot to do during this interim. With the mandate from the district court, it was a huge lift, and we just couldn't get to it all. And up until just a couple of weeks ago, we were, as of last Monday, a week ago, we didn't have a lot of these numbers in. Some of the numbers that were presented to us last Monday were a surprise to me. But the reimbursable insurance, that's an amendment I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. And If this bill would have been heard in the House chamber, that's an amendment I was planning on bringing.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. And I visited just briefly with one of the co-chairs about the same thing. I think we might be on the same page with ideas on insurance. So I may bring one, but I won't do it until I visit with both co-chairs and the committee.
So,
Yes, go ahead. Mr.
Madam
Co-Chair.
Chair, I just appreciate the remarks of Senator Scott. I just want to highlight the fact that the LSO staff were incredible. As you can imagine, I think my co-chair would agree with me. This is probably the most difficult task we've had in the legislature. And without the help of our incredible LSO staff, who've always been on top of the information, it just would not have been able to be done. So with that, Madam Chair, it's now yours to do as you please. So,
Any other questions for the co-chairs? Okay, one more.
okay.
Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I have difficulty with figuring all the details in this that you've got to figure in order to add up. So I have to look at the total net increase. And we're seeing what, 50, the figure I have in front of me is 54.8 million. And in the first year increase, when I look at the district by district results, it tells me that the funding per student in the ranges that are reasonable that we're likely to fund doesn't seem to make any difference. So as I look at the total bill and say, what are we getting for this amount of increase? Is this increase necessary just to keep up with the inflation that is in our society? Or are we doing some kind of an expansion in what we're offering here? I'm a little confused when I look at the overall and say, why does it need to be what it is? What's the real motivation behind the larger increases?
Mr. Co-Chairs,
Madam
either
Chair.
one?
I guess my comment would be this. As you can imagine, to have a diverse group of elected officials to come up with a recalibration bill that we can all get behind and still satisfy the courts and as many of the constituencies that are involved in this takes quite an effort. So it's not a perfect bill, but it's the best we could do. And there was give and take. And so I think Senator Scott, I'm glad you're on this committee. You can use your pervasive arguments to reshape it the way you think, but this is what the committee came up with. And as my co-chair said, we voted unanimously on a bipartisan basis for this recalibration. And I would look to Senator Scott. I don't know if there's been a recalibration bill that has been unanimous in the past years, but this is what the product came out.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I would comment, I never yet have seen a perfect bill.
I haven't seen one
That's
either.
the nature of the beast we've got. This is just a very good one.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, one last comment. Go ahead.
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Co-Chair.
you, Madam Chair. And Senator Scott, this was a very complex machine, this model. It's got lots of cogs and everything moving in there, and we made some adjustments throughout the model. But I think LSO can back this up. That 50 million additional, most of that is for salaries, adjusting the salaries to market conditions. And that cost them, that was most of that expenditure. Yes, we adjusted things throughout the whole model. But if you look at just solely the cost of it, of bringing our salaries up to market conditions that we have failed to do. And that was one of our highest priorities as chairs, co-chair and I, to bring our salaries to market condition. The brunt of that $50 million is for salaries.
I have a question.
Okay. Do you have one more question? Okay, go
I do.
ahead.
Thank you,
Senator Olson.
Madam Chairman, I do have a question about that. So I think, to me, one of the most important parts of this bill is what you just discussed, is the raises that we're going to be able to give to teachers throughout the state of Wyoming. I think this bill fundamentally takes care of them. But I am curious why, when you say market value, it's 75% of the model. So is 100% of the model not market value? Or why did the committee decide on 75% as 79.1% as opposed to funding it 100% like the model suggests?
Mr. Co-Chair? Either one of you?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Olson. We hired a consultant that deals with this on an everyday basis across the whole nation. I don't think the co-chair and I have that kind of experience or expertise in our life skills to be able to determine that. That's why we hire experts. And this is not just a one-off for them. They've been studying this for years and years throughout the whole nation, and they're renowned throughout the nation on this. So they came up with that percentage, and they said it's evidence-based. They can back it up with data. If you would like, they could get the data for you to show where that comes from. But that is why we hired them, is to come up with the best number based on their experience, their expertise. Most of them have doctorate degrees. There were 21 of them that worked on this model. But we went with their recommendation, Senator.
Okay, with that, thank you so much, co-chairs. Appreciate your leadership and thank you for coming in and taking your time to give us the high level and answering our questions. So with that, we are going to go ahead and open it up for public testimony. And I would just mention, we have an hour and a half. I don't intend to take an hour and a half of testimony because we've at our last January meeting, we took hours upon hours of testimony. And I think we kind of all know where we are. We are going to take testimony, but I do want to have time to work this bill. And I'll tell you the reason I want to try and get it out today is we have 7 more bills in education and we only have 1 day left. I don't want to see any of those other bills just go to the wayside. So what I'm asking today, when you come up to testify, just keep it to 2 or 3 minutes. If you go more than 3 minutes, we'll probably cut you off. And it's not because we don't want to hear from you. It's just that we've been there, done that all summer long. And right up until January. And so if obviously if there's somebody that's already mentioned the things that you've mentioned, you might want to just hang on to your ideas, even though we'd love to hear from you. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up and 2 to 3 minutes. And WDE, why don't we hear from you guys first? And then we'll go from there. So we're going to ask the WDE to start us off and then probably A&I, our agencies, and then we'll go from there. So welcome, Mr. Shaner.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members, Dickie Shaner, Trent Carroll with Department of Education. Superintendent Degenfelder asked us to share that she's pleased there's still a recalibration bill to consider, and she supports the hard work of the recalibration committee during the interim. The draft bill represents an increase in funding for all districts except one in year 1 and all districts in year 2, but it can still benefit from continued deliberation on various aspects. One potential compromise she supports is amending the proposed ADM change in the bill to go back to the current rolling average, but with a look back of just 2 years instead of 3. The bill reflects the most current consultant recommendations for FTEs and salaries, which improves alignment between the funding model and the number of positions currently hired and salaries currently paid. She'll continue to discuss the bill's various components with legislators and superintendents. And Trent and I are happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you so much.
you.
Appreciate your testimony. Let's hear from Director Bach if you've got a few minutes. We appreciate you coming today.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. My name is Patricia Bach. I'm the Director of A&I. We have the EGI program. So I wanted to make sure that we were here to answer any questions that you have and then talk a little bit about well, we're neutral on the bill as usual. There are some concerns though. Right now, there's no appropriation in the bill. That makes me extremely nervous considering that we're doubling our plan. So we have about 38,000 lives on our plan. With all of the school districts coming on, we'll be doubling that. So we would need about 10 positions to work the additional folks. We have about 10 right now. We've talked about how to figure out what we would need. monetarily for funding. It's very difficult when you don't have a study and you don't know what the school district's claims look like. So that is another concern that we have, and I think I've talked about that the last time I was here. But we're looking probably at, and I hate putting a number out there, but it's it's necessary, somewhere around $75 million to have the claims when they come on in 27, July of 27. Each individual school district has their own plan, so they cannot just transfer their reserve to us because they have to pay out what they haven't paid yet. So they're going to have 3 months of claims coming in that they have to pay out. So we would need to have that same reserve. And the concern I have is that if we don't have an appropriation, the plan will not be around shortly after they come on, and that concerns me. So it should concern everybody. So the other issue we have, the rates. Right now, the rates are what they are on 38 million or 38,000 lives, not million. So when we double that, those rates will change. And I want to talk a little bit about the rates that happened during COVID, because it has been quite a while since we've had a rate increase. This year is the first year. COVID did a lot of things in this country. The one thing that was helpful to us is people stopped going to the doctor. They didn't go to hospitals. They didn't go to the doctor. Almost all insurance companies saw a savings during COVID, and we rode that out. But we are seeing across the nation, and with our own plan, it's starting to spike back now. So what that rate will be in 2027, we can kind of say it's going to be close to what we have now, but it's probably going to be increased. A study would really help us be able to have more of an exact number, and I wouldn't have to estimate where we might be. As you know, the funding model for the schools uses EGI's rates. That's a good thing for EGI because they're already being funded at the EGI rate. And my understanding is that is where some of the concern is, because they don't, I don't want to say refund, but that money goes and then it's gone for insurance. So that is one of the good things we have in the funding model. So we don't concern ourselves too much with that. And I want to be careful in what I say. I worry a little bit about, not a little bit, I worry about the healthcare in general in Wyoming, and then the insurance in Wyoming. If EGI takes over all of the school funding, we don't want to harm local business. We don't want to end up having the trusts struggle. So I think I'll leave it there.
Okay. Questions for Director Bach? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Bach, so I want to explore a little more your concerns about the timing of the insurance. The legislation as it currently is has a 1-year delayed effective date. So that is probably why it doesn't contain an appropriation, because the select committee will continue its work throughout between now and then, and could suggest an appropriation after the study. I have some reservations about that in general, because it is confusing to me why we delay it, why we don't just say study it and then figure out what it looks like. But we're basically saying, yes, we're going to do it, but we're going to study it first. And that's a little confusing. But does that, there is a proposal, an amendment, I don't know if you've seen it, but that would push that out to a 2-year delayed implementation. Does that help any, or do you still run up against the clock in some way or another?
Thank you,
Director Bach?
Madam Chairwoman. Senator Olson, if it goes out to, it would be July 1st, 2028. We discussed that just about 5 minutes ago. That would put us in a better situation for the study with our actuarial. However, there's not an appropriation for a study either. So I just want to make sure and mention that, so that EGI program manager doesn't have a heart attack behind me, but we would like to be able to study that, and 28 would give us the amount of time we need, but we would also need some additional funding for that study.
Other questions? Yes, Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you. What's a reasonable price for that study?
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Rothfuss, I think a reasonable amount would be somewhere, we just did another discussion about a study, and that was 250,000. But I think we would probably, as long as we can get the information from the school districts and possibly through the Department of Education might be able to help with that. It probably could be lower.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
is
follow up, go ahead.
$100,000 sufficient?
I would say $150,000.
Thank you.
I worry about estimating, but I do think that that would be approximate.
Madam Chairman, yeah,
Yeah,
putting you on the spot a little bit there. Sorry about
That's
that,
okay.
but there's still process ahead. Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Bach? Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your information.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
All right, who's next? Please introduce yourself. And
Good morning,
also
Madam
let us
Chair
know.
and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Jeff Jones. I'm the superintendent of Sheridan School District Number 1, serving Tongue River and Bighorn schools. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. I will be brief, and I've condensed my comments in writing. I want to focus on two core issues in Senate File 81, the decision to raise class sizes over multiple grade levels, and the bill's failure to address our reality in teacher salaries. On paper, this looks like efficiency. In schools, it works differently. This bill solves a math problem, but creates a human one. When class sizes increase from 16 to 22 in grades 4 and 5, from 21 to 22 in grades 6 through 8, and from 21 to 25 in high school, the immediate result is not flexibility, but rather fewer funded teachers across Wyoming. As it stands now, the single most memorable thing that is set to come out of the recalibration bill is that we will have waited since 2005 to see a lot of teaching positions being cut across our state. In our district, the proposed increases in class sizes will reduce our funded positions, certified and classified, by around 20 people. Keep in mind, because elective teachers are funded as a percentage of course staff, the number of elective teachers will also be cut. Elective classes are not filler or fluff. For a lot of our most at-risk students, they are why they come to school. I can also tell you from having developed master schedules for 30 years, the elective classes are what makes the master schedule work. When students are in electives, core teachers are collaborating in professional learning communities, reviewing data, aligning instruction, and adjusting strategies to improve outcomes for all students. That time is not optional. It is how improvement happens. When elective staffing is reduced, students will have to be taught during those periods. So the work shifts back onto the remaining core teachers. Raising class sizes not only makes the actual classroom teaching experience more challenging for classroom teachers, but it will result in a loss of collaboration time and increase in additional instructional duties and being forced to teach exploratories and electives. The bill solves a math problem by creating a human one. The ripple effects are real, and at a time when Wyoming is already struggling to attract people to this profession. A state-hired consultant, Dr. Stoddard, reported that from 21 to 22, a 10-year period, the average wages for teachers in Wyoming grew just $2,000, roughly $60,000 to $62,000. That isn't because schools were getting funded for teachers and just choosing to spend it on something else. In fact, during that same 10-year period, the funding gap between what districts received for teacher salaries compared to what they actually paid in teacher salaries more than doubled, going from a 7% gap to a 16% gap in 2022. Meanwhile, Dr. Stoddard reported to the state legislators that during that same 10-year period, there was a rapid growth in comparable health and business occupations as a result of sharp rises in wages. Is the reality of this long-awaited recalibration bill to ask educators to do more with less in a profession that is already falling behind competitively and economically. A slight bump in the funded average salary when the districts have already been outpacing the state's funding for teacher salaries by double digits is not going to get it done. Madam Chair, this is not for you because I know your coaching history, but maybe it's for the rest of the committee. Here's a basketball coaching analogy. It's as if the comparable health and business occupations have aggressively built up a 20-point lead on our teachers. And now in the fourth quarter, at a time when we should be putting on a full court press to get back into the game, we're sitting back in a 2-3 zone, watching the time tick away. In closing, raising class sizes does not simply save money. It restructures schools in a way that makes teaching harder, collaboration rarer, and recruitment more difficult. That is not theoretical. It's an operational reality. This bill solves a math problem by creating a human one. And in public education, human problems are the ones that should matter most. Thank you, and I stand for questions.
Just going to say thank you, Dr. Jones. I like the analogy as a former basketball coach. I never liked a zone either. I prefer a man-to-man or girl-to-girl defense. But thank you for that analogy. Questions for Dr. Jones? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, you got about 3 minutes. Go for it. Mr. Mullen, we know you, but introduce yourselves.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, my name is Tate Mullen, Government Relations Director for the Wyoming Education Association. I've got a few recommendations that I would like to bring before you today. I'm happy to answer any questions in detail, but I will go over these fairly quickly. First and foremost, the Wyoming Education Association would support status quo on the ADM calculation, the greater of the 3-year rolling average or the previous year. We would also like to see the ECA go back to the single year. There are some potential issues in terms of pay freezes as well as constitutionality, given what we've seen historically for ECA's salaries. And this one I really want to hit on. All of these we have cost-based proposals, so these do lie in cost-based analysis. So the recommendation from the consultants, we have long taken issue with the methodology that they have used. We have the RAND State of Teachers survey that looks at teacher salaries and their comparable professions. And our recommendation to the committee would be that instead of the 79%, that it is at the 88%, which would mean that the salaries, that weighted model average salary would be $78,540. That is consistent with hours worked, which is the issue that we took. Additionally, the class sizes, we would also like to have a conversation about that. There is some evidence-based pieces that I think were missed. I think reducing those class sizes, I think the former speaker put it best, so I don't need to hammer on that. We would like to see the class sizes reduced. I think there's a potential of a school facilities issue as well that may end up costing more money than we're assuming in savings. Finally, we'd like to see the insurance as a status quo. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. You were way under the gun. Way to go. Mr. Mullen, questions for him? Senator Scott?
Madam Chairman, when you look across the sweep of the state, are we really reducing the class sizes, or are we merely reflecting what has actually happened over time in our state, that the class sizes that are being funded are not being in fact implemented? And what we're seeing is a reflection of the reality.
Mr. Mullen?
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Scott. That reality varies across the state. In Cheyenne, we absolutely have issues with our class size, and Cheyenne isn't the only district in the state that has issues with class sizes. And we need to remember that this is an average, and when you take into account AP courses, some of those CTE courses, then compared to write your general, whether it's algebra, you're going to end up, because of that average, with those larger class sizes. Additionally, we have seen the projection for an ADM, a steady decline. That's a statewide average. That is not reflective of every district. We've seen Uinta has some potential folks moving in that will see some increase in students. The missile silo refurbishing as well as the data center here, I think provides some possibilities for some increased ADM as well. So when we do that, obviously it's going to look different across the state, but there are significant issues in terms of classroom size, especially given the average.
Okay, thank you. Oh, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chairman, thank you. So what would be the ideal class size or class sizes?
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Olson, great question. Our preference would be the status quo.
Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. Moving on. Who's next? I believe you're next.
Thank
Please
you, Madam
introduce
Chair.
yourself.
My name's Kirk Schmidt. I live in Lander. I'm retired now, but I was a business manager in K-12 public education for 39 years. So I've been through a few of these in my lifetime. My question is, when have we reached a time in a legislature where the government closest to the people cannot be trusted to make decisions that affect them and their communities? The vast majority of this bill is an attack on local control and the ability of the local elected school board members to make decisions that are best for their local citizens. Categorical funding removes those decisions from local school boards. The Wyoming school funding model is just that. It's a funding model that provides resources to locally elected school boards. It's not an expenditure model to be used by the legislature to dictate spending policy to locally elected school boards. Wyoming Statute 213105 states the Board of Trustees of a school district shall be the governing body of the school board. The legislature doesn't govern local school districts. Forcing school districts into the state of Wyoming health plan takes away the local school board's abilities to determine total compensation for all employees. That total compensation is also used in the private sector. So I don't understand why the legislature is wanting to move away from what the standard is in our society. There's a statement in the fiscal note that is not correct. The statement says, further, the number of premiums paid through the K-12 funding model would be expected to be decreased. You heard your co-chair of the recalibration committee talk about part-time employees. The vast majority of the school districts don't cover 20 to 30 hours. How can that be a decrease? That's going to go up. The premiums paid by districts under the state plan using the state rates would actually increase, and that increase would be significant. That data is easily calculated by school districts. Over the years, the legislators have been critical of school boards for their lack of planning. It was said earlier, but I'll reiterate it. Removing the 3-year rolling average takes away one of the most important tools that are used for future staffing considerations in a school district. Requiring districts to use 50% of their investment earnings is very short-sighted. This has been debated many times and it's remained the same. This is a disincentive for local school districts to maximize their earning investments. I would still contend that removing the pre-97 cash reserve is not legal. Those cash reserves were already run through the funding system. They're excess recapture funds, and they were already used to calculate entitlement at the time. You're asking us to run it through the system again and re-tax it. I don't think that's legal. The powers of the 21.3.111 dictates the powers of boards of trustees. One of those is to set the salary for the superintendent of schools, who's the chief executive officer of the school district. It's troubling to me that the legislature has decided they're going to start setting salaries for individual positions.
Mr. Schmidt, your 3 minutes is up. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to wind it up with?
Recalibration is recosting of the model. It's not pulling funds out of the model for specific expenses. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Schmidt? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. I'm not sure who's next. Who's ready? Ready to roll? Please introduce yourselves.
Chairwoman Schuler and members of the committee, my name is Cheryl Hageman, and I'm here today to represent WEBT, a Wyoming-based not-for-profit public employer benefit trust serving our Wyoming school districts for over 55 years. WEP currently serves 24 school districts along with 4 BOCES entities for a total of 6,200 educational employees and their 10,400 family members. We are also fortunate to serve 77 other public sector employers. Requiring schools to join the state plan continues to move Wyoming to a single payer system. And it conflicts with our long-term Wyoming values and our principles of competition, local control, and market choice. Wyoming already has the lowest insurance competition in the nation, and introducing a de facto type single-payer healthcare system will drive more carriers out of state. In a state with very limited competition, consolidation will further reduce the availability of health insurance in Wyoming and will lead to higher long-term costs, fewer plan options, and less innovation in plan design. This move will threaten local businesses that have served Wyoming communities for decades, as well as each and every Wyoming citizen. Earlier, it was said that the state did not have a rate increase since 2018. As recently as 2019, the state EGI program was underfunded by $24.5 million. And from January of 2019 to January of 2021, the state saw close to a 23% rate increase, impacting members mid-year with an additional 10% rate increase. It also required them to move from an 85-15 split to an 82-18 split. So there have been significant changes in the funding of the state plan. This type of move will certainly pose existential risk to the state of Wyoming. The state program is a self-funded program and bears 100% of its risk. And currently, the state program is not designed for rapid expansion of 35,000 additional members. Doubling a plan within 1 year introduces significant financial risk, as well as member disruption and operational strain at the member level, at the state level, at the payer level, and at the provider level. So prior to the time any mandate is considered or approved, it is very important that we all work together to plan a sustainable cost management program, to innovate plan designs that meet the needs of our people, and to continue an ongoing dialogue between the state, our schools, our members, our payers, and our providers to protect our business viability and, of course, most importantly, patient access to care within Wyoming. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Ms. Hageman? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Next up.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Bill Novotny here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. You're probably saying, what are the commissioners doing here? And I need to speak specifically to WEBT because you have multiple counties that participate in this health insurance program: Crook, Lincoln, Platte, Niobrara, and Weston. And you will recall that up to 2 years ago, Niobrara County did not offer insurance to its county employees. And today it is a very bare bones plan that does not include family or dependents. And it is possible only through WEBT. There are also at least 16 municipalities, special districts, and other boards and commissions that participate in that. By removing the vast majority of participants in that plan, you look to destabilize that trust, causing increased costs and uncertainty, as well as loss of access for the remaining participants. I would strongly encourage you to remove this provision and allow those healthcare decisions and planning decisions to be made at home by the local district, which will also protect those county and municipalities that choose to participate in that. Because without that trust, they probably would not have the opportunity to offer health insurance or have reduced offerings for their county public employees. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Novotny? Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. Who's next?
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Amy Hendrickson, and I'm here representing the Association of Wyoming Insurance Agents. Obviously, we don't have a position on the funding for K-12 recalibration. However, we are concerned about the provision to mandate participation in the state benefits plan. I am not going to, most of what I was going to say was said very eloquently just a minute ago. But I would like to point out that participation in this plan already exists. And out of 48 school districts, only one chooses to participate. And as mentioned, the provision will negatively impact those outside of the school district. It will reduce market share, and that will make it more difficult for those who, but both for employers that want to offer insurance benefits to their employees, but also to anyone in Wyoming who is would like to obtain insurance, because it will put pressure on the insurance insurers and could reduce the availability, which already Wyoming has a very small number of insurers to choose from. It also places private business in the position of having to compete with the state, particularly for employees, and particularly if you're lowering the number of hours by which you can be eligible. That will make it even more difficult for employers to find employees. And it will, most importantly, not save costs. Already in Section 10, it funds the hiring of new government employees there. So it grows government. And in the bottom line, it just to mandate a state participation in a state-run program just seems counter to the values that Wyoming has always held of small government and local decisions. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from Ms. Hendrickson? Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Who's next?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mariah Learned. I am an assistant principal at Laramie High School, but I'm here speaking as an individual this morning. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this insurance portion will have an effect on our classrooms. In our district, I worked with our Meet and Confer committee for over a 10-year period, and our district considered multiple times in the past 3 to 4 years changing insurance providers. And we looked at all of the available options, and it was decided to stick with our current provider because that was the need that met our local district. Our district has worked hard to address wages for ESPs, especially over the last 2 years. And if that opportunity to select our insurance provider is no longer afforded to us as an individual independent district, rates will increase and take away the progress that we've made and that we're hoping to continue making for our classified staff. Our classified staff will take a much larger hit to their take-home pay if the insurance rates are increased. I started my career as an ESP, serving as a custodian and a special ed paraeducator for a number of years, where I received benefits working at 25 hours a week for Albany County School District. I know these positions are difficult and the financial compensation is not enough as it is. As an administrator in charge of working with our special ed department at the high school, staffing is difficult, both for certified and classified positions. I really struggle to fill behavior paraeducator positions and PLS, personalized learning service paraeducator positions. In fact, I have one open right now. It's difficult when we're not able to offer the financial compensation, and then with a looming insurance increase, it's going to be even more difficult to fill those positions and retain the quality employees that I already have in those positions. So I would urge you to please keep insurance decisions being made at a local level. Thank you. I'd stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Senator Scott.
Madam Chair, ESP, translate that.
Educational support personnel, custodians, bus aides, paraeducators.
Thank you for your testimony. I think you were next. Go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Heidi Ramza. Excuse me. I'm a farm ranch wife, grandma, and Laramie County School District #2 board chair. I'm the face of one of the faces of local control. I've testified before some of you before, and I appreciate that honor. My district is 1,000 square miles. That's a lot of dry prairie right now, dry crop ground, and a lot of antelope And there's a lot of kids in there too. I mean, we have 1,000 students that we have, and then we have 200 teachers. 4 communities, we consider them on the board like our 4 children, and it's Pine Bluffs, Carpenter, Burns, and my little community of Albin. With this, there's some gut check that I really have as a board chair, and the number one is the health insurance. The block grant gives us great freedom to be able to provide our employees insurance at affordable cost, even our classified staff. We have 80% of our staff take that insurance, and 40% of that is our classified staff, our bus drivers that maybe drive 20 hours a week. And it is affordable to them, and they still get a little bit of take-home pay as well. With the current look at this with the state insurance, we aren't going to be able to offer that, but we can because of the freedom, the flexibility that the block grant offers us. The other gut check I have is whenever we categorize things for small districts, that's just like death to what we can do for our students when we categorize things. So I would really suggest that just keep the block grant as flexible as possible. We've been elected as trustees, and that's a trustee to the state of Wyoming. It's also a trustee to the Department of Education. The end game, we all agree, is trying to get kids to graduate with knowledge to either enter the workforce or to go on to secondary education. And I guess that's our job as school districts to implement that as trustees. And so we would just I really beg you to just stick with flexibility in this block grant. The other thing that really kills small districts is if we go to the 1-year ADM. The 3-year rolling average is ideal for us. I guess we could maybe negotiate with the 2-year, but 3 years ago, we had the largest population in our school district. We have now gradually decreased. As one person mentioned, planning. 1 year does not help us to plan, and we have to shuffle. I mean, with the geographical location of things, we have to shuffle staff. We already in Albin, we have 49 students. We use a head teacher instead of a principal. We've, pared our staff down to where we have combined grades, but yet we're a school that's a blue ribbon school, that we're exceeding expectations of YTOP. So, I mean, we try. I think as trustees, we really try hard to do well with this block grant. Class size, I would really like to have it go back to status quo for small districts. That's just a killer. So with that, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Ms. Ramza?
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Senator Olson.
Thank you. I do have a question, and I want to talk more about your concern about the health insurance increase. From where we're sitting, we have no knowledge of an increase. The bill proposes a study so that we can understand whether it's an increase or a decrease. Do you have information that we don't have? How do you know it's going to be an increase?
Well, what our,
Ramza?
excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What our classified staff, they can pay the same premium that are, they can come in at that same, I don't know how to explain it correctly, but if we go to the state, they won't be able to buy in at the same rate and still come home with the take-home pay. Let me get my notes here. It says that, most of them work 20 hours per week, and some are full-time, but a lot of them aren't. And so regardless of their hours, that they can, right now, they can pay the same monthly contribution as a 30-hour employee and get the same amount of coverage. If we go to the state, they will have to pay an increased amount of their take-home pay to the 20-hour employees to be able to have that cover and insurance. And we won't be able to hire people. They'll say it's not, I mean, right now we even get, well, as a bus driver, give us a wage that we can live, we can work with, and we'll give you this health insurance. So that will be something that we cannot have as a bargaining chip to retain or even hire our certified staff.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm not sure who's next. Probably Dirk, go ahead.
Good morning, Madam
Please
Chairwoman,
introduce yourself.
members of the committee. My name is Dirk Dykestil. I'm here on behalf of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. We are the domestic not-for-profit health insurer that's been serving this state for over 80 years. Now, I'm born and raised in Wyoming, and I've come to know that Wyoming likes to describe itself as a small town with very long roads. And that matters because we recognize that not a single centralized solution will rarely fit rural communities or rural realities. This is why Wyoming has never relied solely upon a state government. We built towns, counties, and school districts so decisions could be made closer to the people they affect. I'm here to speak on the health insurance mandate portion of this bill, and that portion of this bill does not achieve efficiency, it achieves uniformity. This bill replaces local control with a single statewide mandate, regardless of whether that model fits communities like Albin, the city of Laramie, Evanston, or Mountain View. While consolidation may look efficient on paper, this proposal is not supported by an actuarial study. It's not supported by evidence showing that it will save the state money or improve the quality of health care to those individuals that recalibration is set to serve. Instead, this is a major structural change with significant financial and operational consequences, and yet this legislature is proposing to mandate this first before understanding those effects, which only comes later. I do want to speak on a few portions of the implementation of this bill that have not been addressed yet. Section 10, which starts on 101 of this bill, creates 11 new state government positions to serve in EGI, and that's funded by approximately $3 million. After instituting this mandate, Section 10 will require school districts to submit claims and enrollment data so the state can calculate the insurance impact. And then most importantly, Section 10, subparagraph D, authorizes $80 million of an interest-free loan from the LISRA, the Rainy Day Fund, to cover cash flow issues from state insurance plans during the transition, but requires premiums to repay every dollar within 60 months of borrowing that fund. So this effectively appears to require teachers, school district employees, and current state employees to use a portion of their wages over the next 5 years to finance the implementation of this mandate. In practical terms, this bill appears to shift the portion of the cost eliminating local control over school district plans onto teachers, school districts, and state employees, all who are subject to that mandate. So today, I'm not asking you necessarily to do anything with regard with the large portion of this bill, but what I'm asking you to remove is this mandate to require everybody go to the state insurance plan. Please do a proper study and do this in the proper process. Study it first, let's model it, and let's run that actuarial analysis. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. I would try and pronounce your last name, but I'm just going to say thanks, Dirk. And so any questions? Okay, appreciate your time and testimony. Go ahead, who's next?
My name is Wade Bauer, and I'm the student trustee on Cody's school board. Across our district, with this bill, 32 teachers will lose their jobs alone in our district and over 900 across the state. Cody has roughly 2,000 students in our district, while our neighboring town, Matiti, has only 80. We can't expect both districts' needs to be the same. We need to maintain local control. Also, Cody is fortunate enough to have an alternative high school for students who need smaller class sizes, which with this bill, those students will not receive the lower student to faculty ratio that they need, and they won't have the teachers to support them. That's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Any questions for Wade? Thanks for taking the time to come down and talk to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Teresa, I think you might be next. Oh, do you want to go with Lindsay? Sorry. Go ahead.
No
Please
worries.
introduce yourself.
Madam Chairwoman, Lindsay Simino with the Wyoming Behavioral Health Alliance. We are a coalition of behavioral health professionals, which also includes the Wyoming School Counseling Association. Though we appreciate the conversations that have happened in the interim, the funding that has been included in this bill, given the amount of research and past legislation in recent years trying to address behavioral health in K-12 schools, we are concerned that it is not enough. We would like to advocate for a friendly amendment funding support staff, specifically school counselors and nurses fully using the evidence-based model recommendation immediately. Doing so will help get vital supports to schools who have been in need for several years. And with that, I stand for question.
Excuse me. Any questions? Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Ms. Director. I call you director instead of Superintendent Cox.
It's
Go ahead.
okay. I wear lots of hats. Chairwoman Schuler and committee, Teresa Chalk, Superintendent, Lincoln County School District number 1. And I want to start off with feeling like it's deja vu. This is the 4th time we've had similar testimony over the past 6 months. So, because I've attended all the recalibration meetings and I realize only a few of you have been on that committee, but out of all of those meetings, and I'm pretty confident at least 90% of the emails you've all received is not in favor of many of the items in the proposed bill. They're not in favor of increased class size. They're not in favor of eliminating the 3-year rolling average. They're not in favor of going from a model base salary to an average weighted salary. And to my knowledge, 100% of testimony is not in favor of moving to the state insurance program. To answer one of Senator Olson's questions regarding cost of the insurance, and I'm flipping around because I wanted to make sure. So it's not that we know the cost of the state insurance plan, but we know it changes the way districts are funded. Currently, we keep our premiums low because we have a block grant. If you take this, the 18% that the employee has to pay, the district has no money to cover that cost. That 18% goes straight to the employee. So with a raise and 18% of the cost of the insurance and increasing the retirement to 3.92% to the employee, they're not going to bring home more money. A simple rule I've had for 19 years is in September of 2026, you need to bring home more than you did in August of 2026. That's pretty easy math. So this bill eradicates local control. You've had a school board member, you've had a student, you've had teachers, you've had public testimony. We believe in local control in Wyoming. I'm pretty sure Senator Scott, Senator Brennan, Senator Schuler, Senator Olson, and Senator Rothfuss believes in local control. You've served for a lot of years, many of you. Why are you trying to take that away? I believe the majority of the testimony, verbal and unwritten, is asking you to maintain current class size. You increase class size, just so you know, that appears to be punitive. You haven't raised them in 25 years. Maintain the 3-year rolling average. You created that to make stable funding for districts. Why are you taking that away now? Strike any verbiage related to moving all districts to the state insurance plan. With that, I stand for questions.
Any questions for Superintendent Chalk? Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, we have seen you a lot. So thank you though for coming and testifying each time. We have about 20 minutes. And so 15 to 20 in order for us to get through the bill and start offering some amendments. So think about that. That'll be about 5 or 6 more people. So go ahead.
I'll be really quick. Bill Scarlett from Teton County School District number 1. I'm in the 10th year serving as a school board trustee. And I know Director Shaner mentioned only one district loses money under this plan, and that happens to be my district. And the initial numbers we saw, it's a salary cut. They'll result in a reduction in salary. And the big problem is the RCA. Teton County will continue to fight to maintain the regional cost adjustment that represents the WCLI, the Wyoming Cost of Living Index. Primarily, the hedonic wage index looks at the labor market, doesn't look at the cost in our market. Currently, housing is at 242% of the state average. An average 2-bedroom apartment is over $3,000 a month now. So you run out the math, teachers cannot afford to live. Having pretty views of the mountains, short distance to Yellowstone, and an access to a Target doesn't really put food on the table or a roof over the head. And finally, this addresses teachers. It doesn't address our classified staff. And that's a really big concern to us. So I hope we can take this up and find a solution to maintain and even give our teachers the raise that the rest of the state is being purported to be given. So thank you. That's it for any
Any
questions.
questions? Yes, go ahead, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Mr. Scarlett. So I want to talk about the loss to your county.
Yeah.
The information that has been provided to us from our staff show that in the first year, Teton County has an increase of $1 million from previous year to the bill as it's written right now. And in the second year, it has an increase of 2.85 million. Our data shows that there's only one county that suffers a loss, and it's not your county, it's Natrona County.
Okay.
I don't know if you're looking at different
we-
numbers, something that you could help shed some light on for us.
Mr. Scarlett?
This goes back, yes, Chairman, Chair Schuler, Senator Olson. It's a transparency issue. I obviously haven't seen that data, the data we've been working off of. I mean, there's a lot of numbers flowing around. So if I misspoke, my apology, but let's go back to what that $1 million will do for us. Nothing. You know, it doesn't give us the raises we need to support our kids, to give them the quality education that our Constitution demands.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Like I said, we got time for maybe three more, maybe one more after you three up here. So go ahead.
Madam Chairman, my name is Patty Guzman. I am with Delta Dental of Wyoming. And Delta Dental of Wyoming is the only domestic dental insurance carrier in the state of Wyoming. We've been serving Wyomingites for over 55 years. And we also are the current carrier for this employees group insurance. We're the dental insurance carrier for them, as well as for the WBT and numerous school districts across the state that insure with us separately. I won't take very much time. We just wanted to echo the concerns that have been relayed by WBT, Blue Cross, and the other individuals that came up to testify in regard to the health insurance piece in the bill. And I would stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the
Appreciate
time.
it. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chairwoman Schuler. My name is Dr. Karen Delbridge, and I am the principal at Cheyenne Central High School. So I would like to also reiterate the insurance is really going to be a burden for many families in Cheyenne. For the family plan, moving from where we are to where we could go will cost families between $200 and $250 more a month. When we're trying to recruit and retain teachers and employees, I think this is really a benefit that we want to leave to our districts. So that way we can make sure that we're taking care of our employees and recruiting and retaining the best that we can. The second piece I wanted to just visit about is the 1 to 25 at the secondary level. When we are increasing those class sizes, we're really having to think about the different programs that we're offering. At Cheyenne Central, we offer a number of accelerated classes such as AP, Capstone, and Honors. We offer a lot of CTE classes. And so with the 1 to 25 in Cheyenne, we are looking at possibly losing between 50 and 60 teachers. And so when we lose staff, we have to really think about, are we going to be able to not only recruit a new teacher, but are we going to be able to continue this program? One of the pieces too that hasn't been brought up is that we service the F.E. Warren Air Force Base. So we have a lot of families that move into Cheyenne and move out, and they are looking for quality programs for their students. And we want to make sure that we're taking care of all students, but also our military students as well. Also, I know I listened Friday to the discussion around the literacy bill. And I think when we're talking about the 1 to 25, that when we're talking about solid tier 1 instruction, it takes a lot of time to be a really good reader and writer. And so at Central, we're talking a lot about vocabulary acquisition. We're talking a lot about dialogic instruction, and that takes time to do. And by increasing those class sizes, we're looking at teachers spending a lot of time around classroom management techniques. And that really takes away from a lot of the rich discussions that happen in classrooms. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Delbridge? No, thank you. Appreciate it. This will probably finish us up, you three right here. So go ahead.
Chairwoman Schuler, my name is Katie Christofferson. I'm a parent here in Laramie County, and I have 4 children in the district, and I've been at several of the recalibration meetings, and I appreciate all of you who have been on that committee and the work that has been done so far. I can tell it's definitely not an easy job. I had brought my children today, including my second grader who has dyslexia. And I believe it's noteworthy that both the literacy bill and the K-12 finance bill are here in the committee on the same day. And the literacy bill makes it evident how much we continually ask teachers and districts to do with their time and resources that you give them, all of which are important. And I do support that, having a child with dyslexia. But again, it's just more to do. I'm here also representing other like-minded parents. Just giving a parent face and voice to this conversation. But we support our local school districts and all of the employees, from teachers down to bus drivers and everywhere in between. I've been on PTOs, and we really try to advocate for teachers and employees as well. I've emailed many of my thoughts already, but to summarize some of my most important ones, I really would like to see limiting the expansion of categorical funding. The only categorical funding recommended by Pike, Soden and Associates was for instructional coaches, not placing a cap on superintendent pay. And while I appreciate the compromise on class sizes already implemented, the combined impact of categorical grants, ADM reductions, and model cuts will negatively affect students statewide. Please consider increasing the middle school specialists on page 5, line 2, and expanding CTE funding and equipment to middle school grades, not just high school. Many of our building classrooms also are already full. At Central High School, my daughter's math classes and then her math skills class have 25 and 32 students. And it's tight fit and often very, very hot already. Finally, please continue to support the block grant model that gives families meaningful choices. I know parental choice is a big talk. And in our district, that includes a robust gifted and talented program and dual language program. The block grant also supports funding for student activities, and the changes of ADM adjustments on pages 18 through 20 reduce those amounts given, at least for our district. And a strong block grant system helps districts preserve these opportunities for students. I would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Christofferson? Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. All right, our last two, bring it home.
Hi there.
Please introduce yourself.
I'm Brad Cox. I teach social studies at Cody High School. You heard from one of my students, Wade Bauer. And I'm glad that we're talking about increasing educational funding. My reality as a teacher in the state of Wyoming over the last 13 years is that I have yet to ever see a raise. A raise would indicate that I have an increase in buying power in the state of Wyoming, and I have yet to ever see that. And I have very little faith that moving to this categorical grant will translate to an increase in salary. It may translate to an increase in my gross income, what I will actually be able to spend from that categorical grant by the time insurance has taken its toll, as well as the loss of other teachers is probably minimal at best. And I have little faith that it will keep up with any sort of increase. I'm welcome for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cox? Thank you for making the trip all the way down from Cody. It's a long haul. Appreciate hearing from a teacher. That's always great. Go ahead, our last one. Let's listen to you, and then we'll shut down public testimony.
Well, I appreciate that Mr. Cox and I are going to wrap things up with a couple teachers. Chairwoman, my name is Rick Simino. I am a math teacher. I teach a humanities class, and then I also run the IB program here in Cheyenne. I came over specifically to talk about class sizes when we talk about those specialized programs. Over the time that I've taught at East, I've been there for 23 years now. We have, on more and more occasion, just been able to run those specialized programs, both at the higher end and the lower end. That when I started, we were able, with remedial math classes, to make sure that we had small class sizes, that we were able to do more individualized instruction. And more, we've had to abandon that idea and just hope that we were able to fit that in. On the other end, with some specialized classes, if you're familiar with the IB program, I think that is similar to AP for our purposes today. But yeah, when I'm advertising the program, the first thing that parents want to know is, what are the class sizes like? And over the time that I've been there, if I'm honest, have more competition from charter schools, from public schools. I welcome the competition. I'm fine with the marketplace of ideas, but you'd notice that on all of their websites, they list class size as a reason to come there as opposed to public schools. That we have had to eliminate classes, eliminate programs, specifically in my program, just in order to help out with other classes. CTE classes are often limited just by materials, that we can't have more than 20 people in our baking class because that's limited by the number of ovens in the room, which means if we're looking for an average, we need to balance that out somewhere else. I stand open for questions.
Any questions? Okay, thank you so much. With that, we're going to go ahead and close down public testimony. I think we've all heard for many, many months your ideas on what you would want to see on this bill. Again, it's 95 pages. There's a lot in here. And we as a committee and at different times, we've talked individually. And I think we maybe have some ideas for some amendments. But before we do that, I guess I need to have a motion from the committee.
Move the bill.
Move the bill by Senator Olson.
Second.
Second by Senator Brennan. All right, discussion.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do have a series of motions, and I'll just note these motions. We've been listening. Hopefully that'll come as no surprise. We've seen a few emails, for example.
Few hundred.
And so we have been talking, and we've talked to other members of the Senate and discussed an approach that I believe will make it better, and hopefully everyone here will believe it makes it better. And we'll walk through those, and then I'll talk a little bit about what it will do. So committee, we have before us, and this just came into existence. I'm sorry, I don't think it's out in the public yet, but we have before us a draft amendment that does a series of
Madam Chairman.
things. Go ahead.
Senator Ruffles, do we need to move the amendment to talk about it?
We could do that.
Okay.
Certainly.
All right, I'll move the amendment.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on the amendment
Sure.
once we hear about it.
Yep. So, Madam Chairman, I'll go through what this amendment does. We don't necessarily need to get into the language, and I think we'll obviously provide flexibility to staff to correct it as we have additional motions and probably have a few other ideas. But these are the core concepts of the amendment, and you'll see at the top of the amendment what these core concepts are. The first is regarding teacher salaries. Rather than 79.1%, we will take that to 85% of the comparable wage. The recommendation was 88. We're proposing 85 in this. And I'll note that a few years ago, we had quite a bit of discussion in the Education Committee about what is appropriate. Our consultant did recommend 79.1, but we felt at the time on the Education Committee that there was substantial justification at 85. So this would move it to 85% of effectively the comparable wage category that's recommended by Dr. Christina Stoddard. The second portion of this amendment increases the ADM to a 2-year rolling average or immediate prior year. So rather than the current 3-year, it would take it to a 2-year, the higher of those two. The amendment would return the ECA calculation to an annual calculation rather than every second year. There is an amendment here that for every school district, there shall be a minimum number of teachers of 17. That addresses some concerns that were not raised today, but relate to our smaller school districts. So a minimum of 17 teachers for a given school district. We would increase the elective and specialist teachers in middle school from 20% to 33 1/3%. So that's returning it to where it is right now. It's actually at 33% right now. So we're giving a bump of 1/3 of 1%. Go middle school. Providing pupil support, returning to 1 FTE per 100 at-risk students, and Those that have followed closely will recall that as this is drafted in the second year, nurses and counselors are funded for our elementary schools, but not in the first year. This amendment brings that into the first year. So we would immediately go to the evidence-based recommendation on nurses and counselors. It would also eliminate that mental health grant, which was designed to offset it. So it's basically pulling the EB recommendation to the first year. As it's drafted right now, it would delete counselors, nurses, mental health from the 2026 study. I'm going to make a minor amendment. There was some interest in continuing evaluation on it in the interim by some members that I've spoken to. But for now, that's the way it's drafted, and I'll come back to that. Regarding health insurance, this amendment would maintain current law for the 2026-27 school year. So basically what we see right now, but it would cap the number of FTEs that would receive it on a reimbursement basis to those that actually used it. So it's more of an actuals up to the EGI cost rather than paying for the teachers that are not employed. So that's actually a reduction, but just to be clear, that reduction pays for the enhancement in the salary going from 79.1 to 85%. So that's where those funds come from. And then the final portion of this amendment, and I have a few more, but we'll do those later, goes to appropriate funds from the School Foundation Program Reserve Account for the costs associated with initial participation in the insurance fund. So it's a loan right now of the Legislative Stabilization Reserve Account. The School Foundation Program Reserve Account has a balance of 88 million. So those funds are available to provide the seed money for the health insurance. That's this amendment. I'll have more related to the health insurance and a few other things in future amendments, Madam Chairman, but that's what this amendment brings, and I'd ask for discussion on the amendment.
Discussion on the amendment. Yes, Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I'm on the, as I understand this amendment, and I may misunderstand it, it looks to me like we maintain the idea of going to the state plan with insurance, and frankly, that's not where I want to go. I just soon drop that whole idea
Madam Chairman?
out and maybe look at the relative costs, but not commit us to do anything.
Okay. Go ahead, Senator Rolfus.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So, Madam Chairman, I'll have a follow-up amendment that delays the insurance by an additional year and provides for a study, but that's not part of this original amendment. And rather than complicating this amendment by engaging in that, I was going to defer that to the next discussion.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Olson.
I would be interested to know what amendments you're going to make. I think that amendment, from my perspective, you should make that amendment to this amendment, because I don't think I could support it under the current insurance provision that you have, but I'm okay with a 2-year delayed. So I think it should be part of this motion.
Are you ready to throw that one in there, Senator Rolfus?
I'm happy to.
Okay, let's add that. Well, Senator Scott, question first.
Yeah, a question separate from the state insurance
okay.
issue.
Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, what is the cost of this amendment? Because there's some things in here that look to me like they are significant increases in the cost compared to the bill as it stands right now.
I think the best person to ask that is Mr. Will Martha. Got an answer for us?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Scott, the estimated increase in funding for school year 26-27 is approximately $60.3 million increase. And then for school year 27-28, $66.8 million. So approximately $126 million increase for the 2 years.
Slow and getting things written down. For the coming school year, it's 16.3 million.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
Madam
Will.
Chairman and Senator Scott, let me clarify. Under your current bill, it increases funding from current law approximately 54.8 million. This amendment would increase that by an additional 60.3 million.
60.3. We're coming, and for the next school year, I just didn't understand what you said.
So, Mr. Chairman, in total for next school year, it's approximately 115.1 million increase over current law.
He's looking for the second year, Matt.
And Madam Chairman, Senator Scott, the following year, your current bill increases approximately 102.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
This adds an approximate $66.8 million on top of that.
66.8, so 60.3 million in the first year, an additional 66.8 million in the second year.
Yep, correct.
That's correct.
And Madam
Okay.
Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Senator
I'll
Ralphus.
just note on that motion, since the instructional silo is unchanged, I think every one of those dollars goes into the instructional silo, $60 million of funding for instruction for teachers.
So Senator Ralphus, did you want to make that additional?
If it
amendment?
is time, yeah.
Yeah.
But Senator Scott has.
Oh, did you have another question?
Chairman.
Senator Scott?
I wouldn't think with the 2-year rolling average provision being a significant part of that. I think that would cover everything and not just the instructional silo.
Madam Chairman, that's a less significant part, even though it is significant. It does dramatically affect this, but there are components outside of that that are affected by it. But of the number that Mr. Wilmarth just gave, as I said, the bulk of it ends up in this. It ends up being about I think a $55 million net in out of the 60, somewhere in that ballpark. So yes, there are funds that are outside of it from the 2-year ADM. And
Okay.
Madam Chairman, if we're
Go ahead.
ready to go back to all right, so in addition to what we described, complicating it a little bit, that's okay. I would add to the motion, and this becomes a little bit conceptual. We don't have the language yet, but we've worked with staff on the discussion. Put off for 1 additional year the requirement that all school districts join the employee group insurance. Appropriate $150,000 for a study to EGI. Add this to the list of responsibilities of the select committee to monitor during the next interim. And then it would shift now so that the first 2 years would be at what we discussed before, where it's the number of actual employees that are using health insurance times the state EGI reimbursement rate, rather than covering all potential FTEs, it covers actuals. So that's a significant difference. But again, as I noted, that's a cost savings that is more than offset by the 85%.
Okay.
So that's the insurance component.
Okay, got a discussion on that. Excuse me, we've got a second on that. Any more discussion on the insurance portion? Okay. No more discussion? No more amendments?
Not to the amendment. Well, Madam Chairman, I do have a minor amendment to
I
just
knew it
the
was
way
gonna
this
be
is
true.
written. No, it's a tweak.
Okay.
There was interest among some of the members of the recalibration select committee to still take a look at counselors, nurses, and mental health during the next interim. So that would be from the language that we actually have drafted on page 3, striking lines 6 through 9 of this draft amendment, which would allow us to continue that work. It's just a minor correction, but basically strike the number 9 that you have there.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
would that be an additional amendment to the amendment?
striking that.
Yep,
Yes.
Madam Chairman, at that point, yes, I'll say that I will move to make that correction, an amendment to the amendment to strike the number 9 by taking out page 3, lines 6 through 9. If there's a second.
I'll second. Oh,
Okay.
lots of second, lots of seconds. Any discussion on that?
Question on the amendment to the amendment?
Question on the amendment to the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that amendment's passed.
All right, now question on the
Question on the
amendment.
big amendments.
Mhm.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor, oh, sorry.
Okay, now we're voting on this whole amendment.
Right.
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 Okay, I have some reservations.
5 million.
Okay.
I do want to take the state health insurance thing further out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Anything else? Okay, all those in favor of the first amendment, the big amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no,
Okay, that amendment is passed.
Okay, Madam Chairman, I have 2 more that'll be conceptual amendments.
Okay.
The first is with regard to dual enrollment. There has been some concern that districts have been challenged to provide kind of full and unrestricted use for dual enrollment due to funding. And there's concern by the colleges of the same challenge. So this motion is to create a statutory categorical grant of $10 million per year administered by the Department of Education to provide direct reimbursement for dual enrollment expenses by school districts. If actual expenses exceed available funds, districts will be reimbursed on a pro rata basis per credit hour. And we would amend statute to require that districts shall provide unlimited access to dual enrollment opportunities for high school students at all high school grade levels. So it basically pays for dual enrollment and ensures that students all have access to dual enrollment. That $10 million should be more than enough, Madam Chairman.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, second by Senator Bennett. Discussion. Yes, go ahead, Senator
Madam
Office.
Chairman, I'm trying to understand this. When I think of dual enrollment, I think of students enrolled in both the high school and the community college. Is that what you're talking
Correct.
about?
Madam Chairman, yes, my apologies. I was kind of using jargon there. Yes, that's correct. So this is high school students that are taking college courses.
So the net effect of this amendment would I'm confused as what the amendment does.
Madam
Go
Chairman,
ahead.
this pays for the full cost of dual enrollment for any schools out there. They would get reimbursed from WDE from this fund for their actuals on dual enrollment. And then if total dual enrollment costs for the year exceed the $10 million, then it would be pro rata. So they'd still be responsible for providing the unlimited access. At some point, if dual enrollment takes off significantly, this might be something to revisit again, but the data suggests at this point and for the near future, that will be sufficient.
Okay, any other follow-up?
Okay. My understanding was they were already getting paid with the current system.
Go ahead, Senator Office.
Madam Chairman, there have been limitations and constraints on it. The colleges have also had concerns. So while districts have been paying for it and oftentimes BOCES have been utilized, BOCES, if you want to use that term, have been utilized, there is some inconsistency statewide. So that's the purpose of this, to just take the pressure off, because it is in our students' interest, our higher education students, or I mean, our high school students' interests to have as much access as possible. And we want to make sure it's not an equity issue or a challenge otherwise.
Okay, if there's not any more further discussion, let's go ahead and vote on that amendment. All those in favor of Senator Office's amendment on dual enrollment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that amendment has passed.
Okay.
Any other amendments?
One more, Madam Chairman.
Okay, I knew we
right.
needed a lot of extra time. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Madam Chairman, this one is complicated, and I'll explain the purpose before making the motion. There is $115 million new dollars in the education silo. There are nearly 1,000 unhired teachers. Actually, as I look at it, there's 1,400 unhired teachers in that educational silo. With the 85th percentile, there is enough money in that silo to hire 1,400 new teachers in the state of Wyoming for instructors. So with all of these motions, the idea that anyone would be letting go a teacher would be pretty irrational. In fact, it will be a ridiculous struggle to acquire 1,400 new teachers to fill all of the positions that this model would fund. The concern by doing that in the first year, opening the floodgates in a market where you require 1,400 new teachers and inject $113 million new dollars, it would lead to artificial inflation where those teachers don't exist and there would be an obligation for everybody to compete for them. So what would happen? Well, what would happen is what happened in 2005, the last time the legislature did this, which was the teachers' salaries overshot the intended target significantly. And then we didn't hire all the teachers. So the intent here is to have districts hit the target of their district average 85th percentile as their district average in the next year and in the following few years, unless that district already exceeds that average, which only a couple do. So the intent of the motion is to get districts to be targeting the right target, not compete with each other, recruit in a responsible way, and build that up. It'll do two things. One, require that districts hit that target, and two, create an instructional reserve account so that if you don't spend all of those funds because you just can't find enough teachers, that you set those funds aside into a reserve account, which will help for downturns in enrollment or for some of the other concerns we've heard with the educational silo, that it causes some smoothing problems. So my motion, Madam Chairman, is that for each of the next 3 years, this will be a non-codified statute, require that each district preserve their existing pay tables, ladders, and lanes, and adjust them so that the district average salary is set to the greater of the new 85% average teacher salary as calculated for that district, or 1.05 times the prior year district average teacher salary. And then B, establish a separate statutory instructional reserve account where unexpended instructional silo funds can be saved. These funds will be available to districts to help stabilize declining enrollments or facilitate hiring. This reserve account is separate from and does not count towards the standard reserve account. So that is a mechanism to ensure that we do not create the initial artificial inflation that such a large, I mean, it's $113 million of additional injected into a current budget of $458 million. That is non-trivial. That is an awful lot of additional revenue available to pay for teacher salaries and instructor salaries. And we need to make sure that we don't break the system as a result of it. So, Madam Chairman, that's my motion. I hope there's a second after all saying all that.
Is there a second? Okay, second by Senator Brennan. Discussion. Yeah, I visited with Senator Rothfuss just a little bit before we came down here on this, and I think it's a very smart, very measured, though at the same time, result of the increase, like you say, in the unhired teachers. So I agree with it.
Madam Chairman, this is what I was doing at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning when I woke up thinking, oh my God, this would create a huge problem.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just for my own clarification, we'll be able to get with the budget fiscal team and with Senator Rothfuss after this, just to make sure I got everything tracked accurately.
Go ahead.
Absolutely, Madam Chairman. And I've had discussions with the budget fiscal team as well and the attorneys late in the evening last night to talk this through so that we tried to contemplate unintended consequences. So I think they've already started drafting it and have a good sense of it.
Okay. There's no other discussion. Let's go ahead and vote on that amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No?
No.
Okay, that amendment's passed. Anything else for the good of the group?
That's all I've got.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and take roll, Corey, on this bill. Senate File 81.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 81 as amended. Senator Brennan,
Aye.
Senator Olson,
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss, Senator Scott,
Aye.
Chairwoman Schuler.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 5 ayes.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for all the testimony. And like I said, these last 2 bills we had to do, we've had lots and lots and lots of testimony. We still have 10 minutes. Senator Crum, are you still in the room? Let's go ahead and we've got one more bill. We can skip right through this. Come on up here.
I did not think we did the bill.
I didn't either. Yay. I told him to be ready just in case. I think his bill is going to go a little quicker than these others. Last bill for our consideration is Senate File 53, Keeping Amateurism in High School Athletics. And with that, let's go ahead and turn the time over to Senator Crum.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee. I'll be very, very quick. Thank you for your time. I know in your busy schedule. This bill is about keeping just what you said, amateurism in high school athletics. Has to do with the Wyoming High School Activity Association sponsored activities and athletics. What it does not include is rodeo. Which is not a high school sponsored event. So as far as them getting paid for travel and getting paid that's excluded from this bill. But it does include all other high school sports. It's to keep professionalism out. As we know, professionalism has hit college sports through what is called NIL, name, image, and likeness. The overriding premise for name, image, likeness in college sports was the colleges are making so much money off of amateur athletics. Shouldn't the players participate in some of those earnings? And that got us to where we're at today. I would say our high schools in Wyoming don't have that same issue, that the high schools are making so much money off of high school sports that they ought to share that earnings with the players, or the players earn money. So that's the big overriding difference between high school and college. What this bill does do is keep players from participants, I should say, from participating and getting paid for their competition while they're in high school for that sport. What it does not do, it does not eliminate awards, trophies, travel, food, participation, anything that a junior national team or Olympic committee would provide through funding. It doesn't eliminate any of that type of activity for the athlete. What it does do, though, it keeps an athlete from a small school, say in my district, out by Rock Creek, that's a really good athlete, from somebody in a bigger town with a bunch of plainsmen in it, paying that athlete, say, hey, come to town and we'll give you a car, we'll give you $10,000 to come to town and play for our school. And so it keeps that type of activity. It doesn't keep, also this bill does not address transfers. If they have open enrollment, it does not address that. It just keeps from athletes getting paid. And with that, Madam Chairman, I stand for question and ask for your favorable consideration.
Questions for Senator Crum? I had just one. I know some other states are taking a look at this. Are there other states that have passed this thus far?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairman, I believe there's been 8 states pass something very similar to this type of bill, and I know there's many others looking at it.
Okay. And then the other thing that I thought about, and I don't know why, but if an athlete in another state has received NIL money and then they transfer into Wyoming, does that affect their amateur status, or do you have any idea on that?
Madam Chairman, the way this bill's written, it would not, because it doesn't address out of state, but beginning the point they transferred into Wyoming, they would no longer be allowed to receive funding if they're participating in a Wyoming high school activity sanctioned sport.
Okay. Other questions?
Yes,
Senator
Madam
Olson?
Chairman. Thank you. Senator Crum, maybe this is somewhere else in the bill addressed. I'm trying to fully understand page 6, Romanet 9. The way I read it is things like shirts, bags, hoodies, etc., can only be provided to the participant if it's provided to every student athlete involved. And what I'm thinking of is the instance when a senior signs for a college. It's very common for that college to send them a hoodie to wear during their signing. And I just want to make sure that type of activity is not prohibited by this bill.
No,
Senator Crum?
Madam Chairman, Senator Olson, I don't believe that activity is prohibited because it does allow in this bill for students to sign for high school or for college scholarships and that type of thing. So I don't believe that's prohibited. And it's certainly not the intent of the bill to prohibit that.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, along the same line as Senator Olson, the only concern I have with this is that prior to NIL, NCAA over time evolved into this, well, they've always been a draconian bureaucracy, but they moved towards the ridiculous at the end, right? Where, you had a sandwich and all of a sudden there was an investigation. I see that you have kind of some reasonabilities that you can receive certain things pursuant to the High School Activities Association. I want to make sure that we do not become investigators and get silly about this. Nobody needs to spend their time investigating high school students to make sure that they're compliant with the Wyoming High School Activities Association. What are your thoughts?
Senator Crum?
Mr. Co-Chair and Senator Rothfuss, this bill is fully intended to avoid just that. This bill doesn't provide in any way, there's nothing in here providing for an oversight committee or something like that. It leaves everything with the High School Activities Association to continue what they do today, not trying to change the High School Activities Association where they're at today or what they sponsor, or even down the road if it becomes customary for them to give, instead of a little trophy to everybody, a big trophy. It's not trying to limit or restrain the High School Activities Association in any way.
Thanks.
Additional questions, committee? Any other questions? All right, thank you, Senator Crum.
Thank you.
Move to public comment. Does the Department of Education have any comments on this legislation? Any other agencies have any comment on this legislation? How about general public comment? Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Boyd Brown. I'm the Executive Director for the Wyoming Association of School Administrators. We've had many talks with the Wyoming High School Activities Association about how this might work prior to this bill. And so we support this and think that it'll give the Wyoming High School Activities the direction that they would like to be able to continue to keep our high school students as amateurs. With that, I'd take questions.
Questions for Dr. Brown? Thank you for that testimony. Anyone else in the room? Okay. Sorry, it's the last day, last few minutes to get amendments signed. So sorry about all the disruption. No one else? All right. With that, I guess then we will go ahead and close public testimony. What's your pleasure on this bill, committee?
Move the bill.
Move the bill by Senator Rothfuss.
Second.
We have a second by Senator Brennan. Discussion on the bill.
It's good.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think you've been very proactive, Senator Crum, and I think it's a really good idea. So, all right. No other comments or discussion. We'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 53. Senator Brennan.
Aye.
Senator Olson.
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss. Senator Scott.
Aye.
Senator Schuler.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 5 ayes.
Thank you so much. All right, Senator Crum, I guess you'll carry this bill up there, right? All right, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for coming, for your participation. We're right at 10 o'clock. Wow, well, almost 9:59. Gave us 2 minutes to get upstairs. Thanks, everyone.
Good job.
All right, appreciate it.
Good work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's just do that. Yeah, they'll probably see.
Yeah, yeah. So, and however. We'll see it. Okay.